changes your perspective of responsibility, because then your decision making is not just for this year, but in 30 years, your people are going to, your children are going to come back. So you do it right. You do it right.
Qué bueno que incluso estos jóvenes de esta agrupación realmente se interesaron. Para nosotros es muy satisfactorio que nos hayan visitado y puedan también motivar e incentivar a esa nueva generación también a hacer el uso responsable de nuestros recursos naturales, porque prácticamente eso es lo que nos ha llevado a que ahora pues la masa boscosa sea un poco más pequeña, más corta.
El mensaje es ellos pueden ganar más, ellos pueden aumentar sus recursos y en el mismo tiempo cuando ellos están protegiendo el medio ambiente. Y para mí eso es el éxito del video y eso es el éxito del trabajo de los líderes comunitarios y los grupos que están apoyando programas así.
La Asociación de Comunidades Forestales de Petén, la ACOFOP, percibe este documental organizado por este grupo de artistas y una organización protectora del ambiente como una especie de reconocimiento que les permite comenzar a impulsar la renovación de varias de las 24 concesiones que vencen en los próximos años. Su argumento más sólido es que el modelo de protección ambiental está replicándose y reconociéndose en distintos lugares del planeta. El documental no ha quedado allí. Los músicos que visitaron la reserva de la biosfera maya enviaron una misiva al presidente Jimmy Morales para reconocer el trabajo de los comunitarios que no solo tienen que ver con la producción de madera bajo estándares de protección ambiental. Las 24 comunidades forestales trabajan en proyectos turísticos y en la explotación sostenible de chate, ramón, chicle y pimienta.
Disculpaos, vamos a echar un vistazo ahí.
He had a huge kiln where he was drying pieces of wood, and in this kiln they were drying headstocks for guitars. So we pulled one out and we saw that it was kind of inscribed with a pen which tree it was from the area that they were cutting trees down, and of that tree, which slice it was.
This is the first piece of the slab of wood, second guitar.
It was really interesting to see how each piece of wood was tagged. You knew exactly what tree it came from, what section of the tree it came from.
So each one of the neck guitars has this simple code to trace it back, and it can go all the way back to the forest.
I think that trackability, that accountability, will really help combat illegal logging.
Let me present some really important people in my life. My nephew, my son, and my daughter. They're great fans of you guys. And these two guys work here.
Here's a man who's going to pass his business down to his children, so it's in his best interest, economically and sort of family-wise, to keep the forest going in a sustainable way.
The Maya Biosphere Reserve is also home to the ancient Mayan ruins of Tikal, which are all that remain of the great Mayan city that once ruled this region. The forest has now consumed this area, where many thousands of people once lived. In contrast to how the communities of the region use their land today, archaeological evidence suggests that this ancient city once caused vast deforestation. A major factor in the collapse of Tikal was the overuse of natural resources. The city was then abandoned for 6 centuries.
I didn't realize it was so high. I've always wanted to see those ruins. Climbing up to the top of temple number 4, I mean, you really got a sense of how vast this area of the country is.
Being at the top of the tallest temple and seeing this lush canopy, it's above the canopy, it's beautiful. And imagining a time when the Mayans were building, and when they were living here, that there were no trees at all, and that they used up all their resources, and that eventually led to their demise.
These great cities were completely abandoned, because they didn't manage their resources properly. And I think obviously we have something to learn from that, something about history repeating itself.
Our future and the future of our planet hinges on our willingness to manage our resources in a sustainable way. Community forestry in the Maya Biosphere Reserve is an example of how to both preserve and benefit from our precious natural resources. Unfortunately, this is the exception to the rule. Around the world, communities are struggling with the devastating impacts of illegal logging.
La tala ilegal genera pérdidas importantes de patrimonio natural, genera degradación, pérdida de diversidad biológica, genera pérdidas también económicas porque la tala ilegal no paga impuestos, no entra a través de los mercados legales y va también dejando una estela de corrupción que afecta también la institucionalidad del país.
There's a whole dimension to this situation that is not just about the environmental impact of unsustainable forestry practices. There's a real danger right now for the people who are speaking up for the forests. There's been violence from the people who are doing the illegal logging towards the people who are trying to prevent it. It's a dangerous situation, and it's really sad on so many levels to think about the destruction that's happening on an environmental level and on a human level as well.
We're talking about child and slave labor, human trafficking, tearing away resources from communities that aren't benefiting at all.
With all of the illegal logging that's going on, I think it was really important that we came here to see a positive example of sustainable forestry working. I mean, it turns out that local communities taking care of their own backyards is a really effective way to preserve these forests. It's in the community's interest to preserve these forests for future generations.
One of the biggest problems with illegal logging is that if a community that's doing things in a sustainable way harvests the wood and an illegal company harvests the same amount of wood, they're going to be able to sell that wood for a much lower price. So companies out there kind of have this moral question whether or not to take the wood that's being sold at a lower price and contribute to more illegal logging or pay a little more for the sustainable wood. And that's happening a lot in our world right now. So it's a question I think we all just have to ask ourselves when we're about to buy something.
El consumidor sabe que en su casa o en el lugar en donde está haciendo uso de esa madera, también con su acción de comprar madera legal, está contribuyendo con esa forma de conservación del buen manejo de los recursos a nivel global.
This issue is very similar to blood diamonds. It's about knowing that what you buy has deep impacts far afield from the store you bought it from. So understanding that there's a whole supply chain involved here. So if you're buying furniture, if you're buying a guitar, if you're buying flooring, any wood product at all, knowing that your wood is legal is a question that you should ask.
This trip has really opened my eyes and made me really think about wood in a completely different way. Really gonna, from this point forward, be looking for woods that are harvested responsibly. And I don't think enough guitar players are really asking those questions, because probably like me, it hadn't occurred to them that there were these negative consequences around illegal logging.
Take a trip somewhere and they'll see the clear cutting with their own eyes, and all of a sudden they'll realize the destruction that's happening in the forests in certain places. And so all we can do is hope to spread the word about the issue. Okay. Yes, thank you guys so much for watching and for caring and for helping spread the word about this issue. And we love you, and hopefully we'll come play a concert for you soon. Peace.
Estas actividades se realizan en el marco de la finalización de una concesión que el Estado de Guatemala le ha otorgado a varias pequeñas organizaciones en el departamento de Petén que se encargan del uso responsable y autosostenible de los recursos naturales en ese departamento. Los integrantes de los grupos que ya hemos mencionado también apelan al gobierno de Jimmy Morales para que otorgue una nueva concesión, en este caso sería de 25 años, para que sean estas personas quienes sean las que velen por el manejo autosostenible de los bosques en ese departamento.
El modelo de protección que ha implementado la COFOP ha demostrado que la organización comunitaria de base puede ayudar en proyectos sostenibles y salvaguardar uno de los tesoros más grandes del país, el Petén, y sus bellezas naturales, así como arqueológicas. Tal parece que algunos han sabido reconocerlo desde el extranjero. Ahora queda la duda si dentro del país, en el mediano plazo, existe la intención de mantener este modelo. Soy Haroldo Sánchez y les deseo una feliz noche. Hasta pronto.